1, go.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Orange County Funding Corporation's Governance Committee meeting. The time is now 3:02. And can we get a roll call?
Sure. Linda Muller?
Here.
Dr. Vincent O'Donnell?
Here.
Giovanni Palladino?
Here.
Jeffrey Christ? Dean Tamburri?
Here.
5 of 5 members. For staff, myself, Bill Fioravanti, Marty Barras, Kelly Riley, Mason Bobadilla on audiovisual. Our General Counsel Rudy Zoda is here, and our State Monitor Brian Sandage.
Thank you very much. Notice of the meeting was properly provided on the second page of the packet, and the minutes are on the last page of your packet. I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Thank you. Do you have a second? Any corrections, changes, additions, or deletions to the minutes as presented?
Nope.
Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Thank you. Old business. Bill and I talked a little bit about this, but I'm going to ask him to give us an update on the floating holiday.
Sure. When we revised, we passed those along, revised our personnel policy, we had a list of paid holidays. 2 of those holidays fall during the middle of the week, or can fall during the middle of the week, Lincoln's birthday and Veterans Day. And I had proposed at the last governance meeting that we allowed staff to float those 2 days, and what I proposed was only those 2 days, and they could float those for, say, a Monday or a Friday and work on those days in lieu of. But when we brought it in front of committee, the committee did have some opinion. At least we were deliberating a little bit whether or not we should make 2 floating days to be able to be used whenever they like. And then I think you'd ask to table it and let the committee consider it a little bit longer. And so I just wanted to bring it back and make sure we can resolve it one way or another.
Perfect. So, before you have a listing of all the approved holidays, which I understand we follow the holiday schedule of the county.
That's what we originally did. We've made some adjustments since we've revised our personnel policy, but yeah, these original dates are based upon what Orange County observes as well.
Okay. So the question that is presenting us is, do we want to allow for 2 floating holidays? Not asking to add additional holidays, but to change the actual days off for the 2 of them, for Lincoln's birthday and for Veterans Day. Anybody have a thought?
I like it.
You like it?
To
To do the floating?
yes.
Okay.
Does it impact management particularly?
It does. I mean, it applies for me as well.
Yeah.
But we usually don't have a problem where there's too much overlap on days like that.
I like it as well.
Okay. Dr. Oak?
Yeah, I like this. But my question is, generally the county, do they observe many of these days?
They do. That's where this was based off of, is what the county does, which is quite generous for days off for observed holidays. So, but it's one of the perks, I would say, for county and IDA staff.
Would we then be open on those days if anybody's working?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of other businesses are, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because as we know, President's Day takes Lincoln's holiday that's in there. And Veterans Day, for the most part, most places are not closed. Giovanni, do you have thoughts about this?
I'm fine with it.
All right, well, would somebody like a motion to accept the 2 days?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you very much. And a second?
Yeah.
Seconds. Any discussion on the motion?
I would just say we should describe what all that means,
In the motion?
either in the motion or certainly in our paid holidays employee manual or whatever.
Absolutely.
handbook.
Giovanni, do you want to amend your motion to include that the floating holidays would be for Lincoln's birthday and Veterans Day?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, so we now have an amended motion. Any comments on the amended motion?
Makes sense.
Okay. I'll call the question. All in favor of having Lincoln's birthday and Veterans Day as floating holidays as opposed to just closing the office, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, that is all the business that's to come before the Funding Corporation, so I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Can we go Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Orange County IDA Governance Committee meeting. The time is now 4:08. Bill, can I bother you for a roll call, please?
Yes, Linda Muller.
Here.
Dr. Vincent Oda.
Yeah.
Giovanni Palladino.
Here.
Jeffrey Christ.
Here.
Dean Tamburi.
Here.
5 of 5 committee members are present. For staff, Bill Fioravanti, Kelly Riley, Marty Barras, Mason Bobadilla. On audiovisual, our general counsel Rudy Zoda is here, and our state monitor Brian Sanders.
Thank you very much, Bill. Notice of the meeting was provided on page 2 of your packet, and on page 3 is the minutes from our previous meeting. I hope everyone had an opportunity to review those minutes. I would ask for a motion to accept the minutes. We have a second, please.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion?
No?
No. All right, then I will call the question to order. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion carries, thank you. Old business, do we have to go through the whole thing again on the floating holidays? Does there need to come a motion out of this?
Only because this is a separate meeting, I will just kind of
Okay.
define it quickly. We have a revised date of paid holidays per our new personnel policy, our handbook. There are a couple of days that are paid holidays that are during the middle of the week, Veterans Day and Lincoln's birthday. It causes a little kind of unusual interruption in the middle of the week if we're forced to take that day and be closed on, say, a Wednesday or a Thursday. So I'm suggesting that we create 2 floating holidays for those holidays, for Veterans Day and Lincoln's birthday, and allow staff to use a day off on another day, but work on that calendar day. So we did just pass this in Orange County Funding Corp. and looking to do the same thing for OCIDA.
Giovanni, would you like to make the same motion that you
The
made?
same motion is described by Bill.
Okay, thank you. And that is specifically to take the 2 days, which is Lincoln's birthday and Veterans Day, and turn them into floating holidays. So, thank you very much. Can I have a second on the motion?
Aye.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? None being, motion carries. Thank you. All right, let's go to new business. Let's start with page 5, I believe, is the recommendations from our monitor from Anshin, and we've had an opportunity to review them. There is one that Bill and I discussed, and I've asked him to give us a follow-up on that, please.
Yes, and what I just handed out is attorney-client privilege. It's comments from our attorneys on these recommendations. Let me give them to staff as well. This copy, please. I'm ready.
Thank you for increasing the font.
Yeah, I know. This made it a little bit easier. We received a number of recommendations from Anshin over the last 2+ years, 40-something, and 16 per a message from Anshin on July 17th. 16 of them are still not implemented or accepted. And under the new state monitor law, we have 45 days to consider a recommendation made by Anshin, and then we have to accept it or have a vote of at least 5 out of 7 members reject it. So I put them all on here. We have a deadline due to the 45-day commitment of August 31st. So we put them all on the agenda for this committee and looking for you to make recommendations for approvals to the full board later this evening. And we can go all through them all one by one, or I can just talk about the ones that maybe need some discussion. First one is, number 1, I don't have the number, but you see the first one on there, October 24th there. We have no issue with that one. The next is implement confidential fraud reporting mechanisms. This is something that we've gone back and forth between Anshin and our council on. I think we want a little bit more guidance, but we are gonna proceed with that and have a hotline. We've already talked to our web developer about it, so we'll have a hotline on the website so that if someone feels that they witnessed fraud or aware of that and they wanna report it, they're able to do that confidentially.
Just for clarity, what is fraud?
Do you wanna describe it, Brian? You wanna chime into this?
What would somebody be reporting?
It would be any allegation of some sort of abuse, misuse in ethics, criminal, civil, like that. The recommendation is for, like, a lot of companies use a outside vendor called like Ethics Line, where they can answer calls 24/7 in multi-languages if needed, or do a confidential email for those. I think there's another one, Certified Fraud Examiners also has one. So it's usually a toll-free number where someone can call and make a report, and then it goes to someone, and I think, Bill, we were looking at what it would go to the chairman, unless it involved the chairman, and then to council, for someone to look at it and make a determination that it
So
was
it's
valid or
an
not.
internal fraud to the organization.
Exactly.
Okay, I was thinking maybe it was also if somebody saw fraud, somebody misusing a pilot or something, so no, it has to do with the organization.
Exactly.
That's all I wanted to.
Similar to what had happened here before,
I
so
got it.
looking to safeguard against that. There was a little concern about the anonymous reporting of it, that there wouldn't be any way to substantiate any of that, but is that pretty typical, Brian, where?
It's almost always, and a lot of times the allegations you can't substantiate, because someone makes an anonymous allegation, because whatever reason they did it, but you want to be able to offer a whistleblower or someone who wants to make a complaint the option of being anonymous to do it. The challenge with doing that is you often don't have a way of getting back in hold with them if they give a little bit of information that you don't have a way, whether it's the chairman or council, have a way to ultimately run it down. But it does give a whistleblower the confidentiality if they want to do that.
Well, it's difficult to have an anonymous whistleblower. If you
Pardon
don't-
me?
It's difficult to have an anonymous
Yep.
whistleblower status if you don't know who they are.
Yep, so the idea is to give an individual the ability to make an anonymous complaint.
I understand, but you can't give them whistleblower status.
It couldn't get status, correct? Yeah, if you're going to the yes, exactly,
Okay.
correct, yep.
So the only other my comment is a lot of times with these things, you have all these, obviously, let's see, don't do this, but you have all these calls out of just throwing anything out there, especially if it's not, just throwing things out there, and the time it takes to hunt
Track them
down
down.
nothing, I get, but if this is on the website, you're telling me, so somebody would either call or text or write in, then wouldn't there be a trail of that, or that just even that they have to program it, so it's.
There is a service that we would
So you
subscribe
have
to
to, so you
that.
have to do a service.
Yes.
And the idea, Dan, would be that if someone wanted to make that allegation, then you'd have your own internal procedure as to what you do with it. A lot of times that decision, whoever that's going to can look at it and say, we don't have jurisdiction, there's no basis to this, and you move on. That you don't have to do a full-blown investigation. Someone makes an allegation that,
Because is there any liability on a person, they look at it, they say, hey, I think this is completely legal, and then it becomes something, is there anything that they have responsibility for then? I mean, how are they, that's the other thing that bothers me, so
Really,
really.
it's
Malicious fraud reporting is illegal, and that's a problem. I can tell you it's hard from the outside to look inside to see if anybody's stolen anything, mismanaged money. It's hard, other than unfortunately in the environment we're in, leaves us open to a whole lot of stuff that could happen, but,
That's my concern, so
Yeah.
if somebody from the outside can call with the current political climate that we've been dealing with for some of us for a while now, what's gonna stop somebody from just calling because they hate us?
Correct.
That's the only thing, I'm
So I
all
think
for
you-
protecting fraud, I'm just concerned is what are the safeguards? What's
And
the firewall?
and I think you'd want to design a policy around that, that's it, we have no jurisdiction over it. Or just someone looks at it quickly and makes a determination. And when we were discussing it, if the allegation is against the executive, against Bill, it would go to Jeff and counsel or someone that they could, when the allegation comes in, so that it involves, wouldn't go to Bill if the allegation involved him. But I think you'd want to have an internal policy to deal with exactly that, because what you would probably, or historically we find on these lines, most of the complaints, someone's having a bad day and you have zero jurisdiction over it.
I just worry that sometimes we make decisions that some of the public don't like, and then all of a sudden, we're inundated with 100 fraud calls.
Rudy, do you have any input you'd like to share with us?
Just what you've already stated. I mean, it's hard to verify the information if it's anonymous. You could review anonymous complaints and decide they have no merit and not move forward, which might be the case with many of them. So there wouldn't necessarily be harm in accepting anonymous complaints if you review them and dismiss them. But there are a lot of concerns out there about the anonymous.
In
like you said.
my old world, we did not accept anonymous complaints. They were just part of our policy. You want to make a formal complaint, you want whistleblower status, then you needed to come out forward. If not, an anonymous, you can't do anything with them.
Makes sense.
You just can't do anything.
Especially the fact that whoever is being complained against has no ability to confront their
Correct.
accuser.
Correct.
Slippery slope.
So,
Okay, one more question, if you don't mind, it's
I don't
like, so other IDAs have this? I mean, it's like a standard thing that they have,
So-
all other IDAs, or just?
The recommendation from the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners is for it to be anonymous, so someone can make it. So say it was an employee here, wanted to make a complaint, but didn't want to be on record for that someone, whatever the complaint would be, that they could do that, and then someone would have to ultimately look into what that allegation is. The recommendation would be, once you create that you have some sort of policy and procedure, that if you get ultimately you make a decision, they don't like the decision, well, that's not a fraud complaint, because they don't like something you approved or didn't approve. You're gonna be looking at, there's an allegation that someone stole something, someone's, not working where they're supposed to, or something like that.
So the question is, I think we still have some unanswered questions that I feel myself. Would you allow us additional time beyond the 45 days that will trigger on the 30th to take this up?
The answer is yes, and I think, Bill, when we were talking about it, because originally it was gonna run during, if you looked at the statute, it would have run during your July meeting that you didn't have, and we didn't want, it just wasn't gonna be, didn't need for a special meeting. There's not an issue at all if you, I don't have an issue, and if the statute does, we can address that, but if there's some that you say, listen, we wanna partially implement, or we have some questions, we have questions on the anonymity piece of it, or we want council to draft what a policy would look like if we get 10 of these, and 9 of them have nothing to do with the jurisdiction,
Okay, so you'll grant us additional time. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Can we just be clear what we'll do in that time?
I think in that time, we need to follow up with council. I have, you know what I ran. I had fraud and abuse was a federal requirement for our organization. We had a very robust fraud program at the health center. And I just wanna make sure that we're clear on how you can look for something. Allegations typically are gonna be about fraud, it's about stealing. It's not about policy, it's about who took the money, was there Medicaid fraud, is there Medicare fraud, and it's tied about money, not gonna be about policy. So I think I'd be much more comfortable in seeing a draft from our attorneys to narrow the scope so that we're not, we're gonna spend another money to get an outside firm to review these. I can tell you, we didn't have that at the health center with 750 employees. We had an internal check because we had our own audit committee. So I just would ask that council help us review this and ensure that we can be compliant with any true fraud and abuse. Again, just wanna say it for the record, this board and you and staff are not the same people that were here when stuff happened the last time, so.
No one remains good, okay.
Bill, if I could just add to that before Dean speaks. I have no issue with fraud reporting or anything like that. I think there has to be a policy
Yes.
that also protects the person that's being accused, and they have a process. And what I'm concerned about with just someone just calling in anonymously, right, you like to the point that was made by Ruby already, that you can't confront your accuser, you can't get additional information either. As someone that has been claimed that I was part of something that I wasn't, I just worry that it's just too easy. And right now we're so focused on reporting the fraud, but there has to be also a process that the person that's being accused still has the same rights we all do in the Constitution, right? Innocent until proven guilty. I just want to make sure that if we're going to do that, it has to be very, very clear. It's not one of these things, well, you were accused, no, zero tolerance, you're out.
Right.
And depending on who sits on that seat in the future, that could happen. Right? I just wanna.
To that, let me send to Rudy, because it addresses exactly that. Someone is innocent, you know, because you'll get crazy complaints. Someone just, you know, calls the 800 number, does that. So first you want a policy, how do you deal with it? And then quickly someone makes a determination that A, we have no jurisdiction, there's nothing here, and most importantly is the confidentiality of that. Someone made an allegation that someone did bad, you look at something and whoever makes that determination says there's no truth of it, you wouldn't want to sully someone's name that there was a complaint that was out there. That somehow becomes public.
Okay, so we're gonna leave it in your two hands, and then we'll have some
send you
draft
the
something
CFP
back to us so that we can
guidance on it.
review.
And we'll put it on the next governance committee meeting
Please.
agenda.
And Lynn, my concern like is, if say we pass this today, we
Well, we're
changed
not.
it, I know we're not, but if we did, I mean, we still, I think before we do that, like, to his point, that we need some sort of committee together, and that there needs to be an outside agency, I guess, or somebody that's gonna review this, that's gonna go through, I mean, we have to go through that process. You know, who's gonna do it, what agency,
I
that they
think
put
that-
in bids and
We'll
all
get
that other
that,
stuff,
we'll
I
get
mean.
that from the record, well, we can get the
Well-
policy done, and then the implementation of the policy,
It's good.
depending on whatever that is that we agree upon, then we'll enact it, but I'll feel a lot better. Now, this is a small organization, there are not a whole lot of hands sitting in the bucket of money. You know how to write a check? Do you know where they are?
No.
No, me neither, I never knew where they were, I could prove a check, but I could never write a check. And if we had petty cash, I had no idea where that was, so I think I'm very comfortable that we have checks and balances that are in place to ensure that what happened in the past never happens in the future. I just wanna make sure that we have guardrails around, we're in a difficult position from a political standpoint, that people don't like us, and I don't wanna get bogged down with stuff that absolutely makes no sense. Brian, thank you very much.
And you want to be able to address that in the policy, because you will get bogged down
I
with people
understand.
making crazy allegations that have nothing to do with it. And Bill,
Absolutely.
you also want to check, your outside auditor will have a recommendation for the wording as well. It's
Okay.
standard audit language to recommend a fraud hotline. So PK Connor Davis will definitely have it as well, and they'll probably send you the same one that I'll send.
Great.
Thank you, Rudy, thank you, Brian, appreciate that.
I
Okay,
just
next
wanna
one.
jump back in and answer Dean's question that was unanswered about other IDAs.
Mhm.
I do represent 2 other IDAs. They do not have 800 numbers or websites that have confidential or any fraud reporting.
Okay, I can buy the fraud reporting, I don't buy an 800 number, but I don't believe that's required by law.
No,
It is a
it's
standard.
definitely, no, so the idea was some way of reporting it.
Yes.
So what would give you some sort of mechanism to do
Right,
that?
I think we can come up with something
Yep.
somewhat sophisticated.
Okay, great.
Next,
Keep moving. Fraud training, we actually, when we have a new managed service provider and cybersecurity consultant, we have some new fraud prevention trainings. Brian, can we just share them with you to see if you think that they're, okay.
Yep.
Kelly, is that easy enough for you to share with the Anshin team? What trainings we have so far for fraud? Is that easy enough to share? You have materials you can share?
I can look and see if I can.
Yeah, I don't know how much if it's online, I don't know how you share that.
It's online, and I know, we've done like 82 micro trainings and another 4 or 5 of the bigger trainings of
Okay,
it.
all right, let's figure out a way that we can
So
share.
if you
with
ultimately have a library of those where they're available, I think that ultimately would address the recommendation.
Okay.
That you ultimately have them for staff, you know, and if you have, they gotta do X amount of CPEs or some sort of credits during the year, you can make one of them, you know, and a lot of them are 5 and 7 minute videos that are online.
Right.
so the question is, are we prepared to recommend to the board for this to be approved?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, I don't have any, there's no issue with that one.
Next,
Updating new laws and regulations, that is something that we do, that council does with us, they provide recommendations, or I'm sorry, updates on laws and such. For documentation, Brian, are you looking for documentation that it's happening, that council is updating us, or when they do update us, that it's documented on a case-by-case basis? You know what
You could
documentation
ultimately
refers to?
cure that by just annually saying that you did it annually for any changes to the law. When you, if you do like, say, your annual report, or your chairman's report, or the executive director report, So if council's office does that, so if Rudy's firm does that for you during the course of the year,
So just a question, as part of governance, and it's part of our own charter, that we're required to ensure that we review all documents, policies, and protocols on a yearly basis.
so maybe just acknowledging that.
It's in there, I mean, we
Yeah.
have it. So what do you mean by acknowledge?
So then that you actually, if it's in the, so the recommendation is that there's some way to track it or that you do it. So then if the issue is you do it in governance, then in the governance manual that you have it, I think that ultimately would answer the recommendation. Keep in mind, it goes back to 24 when we made it, so we could look at what that recommendation is that's in there.
Is that fair, in 24?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, I mean.
But I don't know that you've seen these.
Okay,
before
well,
this,
I mean, it should be part, I mean, we've talked about this, bylaws have to be updated, all
Yep.
policy and procedures have to be updated and reviewed annually. Any changes need to be made, comes out of committee and goes to the board for their final approval, I mean, that's how this works.
Mhm.
Does that work?
Yes, because ultimately, so the recommendation is that as those changes happen during the year, you're aware of them and you implement them. If ultimately your governance documents address, and I know you spent a lot of time during 25 and 26 redoing that, if that's ultimately in there, I think the answer is that it's done.
Okay.
Okay.
So this one we don't need to bring to the board for their approval.
Well, we still can accept it.
Well, I don't
No,
know.
but it's satisfied?
What do we need to do?
So if it's in there, then does it make, Rudy, this may be a question for you, does it make sense to meet the statute that we ultimately, you do for your September meeting, a resolution that says, we implemented these 5, here's 2 that we disagree with the monitor and we're gonna have a vote on it, and here's 4 that are whatever it is on it. So what happened was, statute comes out in June, Bill and I talked some point after that, and Jeff was on the call, and we realized that 45 days ran in July. So then ultimately it was, the recommendations, how do we deal with that so we don't have a violation of it? I don't have a problem if you wanted to do a resolution as to, we're adopting these in September, because you can't do it today, and here's ones we're not gonna do, and we're gonna do a vote on it, and I think you need a super majority of the vote, or whatever, 5 out of 7, and those are addressed, that you have them, because we have, some of them, we go back to the first report in October.
The only thing I think now is that we would need some kind of acknowledgement from you of which things have been implemented and meet your approval. The ones that we might have to go to a supermajority over would be a different category.
Right, because those are the
But
ones you're not
just
gonna
because
do.
we're passing a resolution, we would still need some indication that you agree with the way that we classify the result on each of the
So
points.
is it easier for everyone then, as we go through these, the ones that you agree, like the first couple, Bill said they're done, that, the other ones that you memorialize kind of in a memo, we go back and forth, and we'll say yes, and you can deal with it at the September meeting. And if there are a couple that we don't agree with you, Brian, we're not gonna do it, then those would be a resolution that we're not gonna do it, and they'd be handled as at a board meeting in September.
The only thing I don't understand is distinguishing between ones that maybe we're implementing already and then those that we're going to still accept. Can't we just accept those that we're not rejecting?
Yeah, because the
Even if
ones,
they're implemented?
because in the report, it lists the ones that you've accepted and implemented.
Right.
'Cause a lot of them were kind of administrative, and you were
Yes.
able to do it quickly.
Jose, I just wanna, it's like, so this was on in 2024.
20 and 25.
Right, and I think to Lynn's point, all the time she spent cleaning it up, it was taken care of in between those two, right?
Many of these.
So, correct, so it was taken care of, so this wouldn't even apply then with the new policy,
It would be just
handbook?
adopted or implemented.
We can
I
simply
feel
make
like we're
a
forgetting we're ignoring the first phrase though, which is establish and document a process for updating new laws and regulations. That's not what we do annually in the policy review.
But as the laws
That's the second section.
As the laws are changed, they come to us and the policy is updated based on whatever those changes are. We don't wait a year to update the policy. If policy change happens in February, our policies need to be updated before December 31st.
What if it's a
of the
new
year.
law or regulation that doesn't apply to a policy of ours? That just is something else we need to be notified by council You know, I think
I
there
don't
are
even
some
know
examples.
if it's not about policy, then why do we care?
IDA law could change, could be requirements, I'm just trying to think of what wouldn't require us to change a policy about it. Okay, all right, if Brian thinks we're good, then obviously we're good.
All right, well, let's just
I just
go
wanna make
back, I
sure
wanna
that
make sure
it
that
applied to that.
we're going in the same direction, so the first item is we're gonna move things to the board today to say that the governance committee asks that you approve these and we get these approved,
Correct.
or accepted, or whatever the language. Are we approving or accepting? Rudy,
Adopting.
We made a
Adopting.
recommendation.
we're adopting the recommendation.
Sure.
Okay, so number one, October 24th, the first one, yes. Number two, Brian already said he's gonna give us more time so we can bang this thing out. Number three, we already said yes, no problem. Number four, I'm basically saying, yes, we're okay with that. The next one, implement project.
Spot checks for sales tax exemption, we will accept that.
Okay,
We'll adopt that. Next, good faith effort, to document good faith effort for complying with local labor requirements. This is something that came up in our audit committee, and we have been discussing that, and I've been asked to talk to other IDAs and who's doing it, and Brian provided some examples of that and a template. Now we're in a different state here now where we have to accept or reject, and I would accept these next two. We would adopt these next two where it's looking for documentation of good faith efforts.
so that's for the first one on that page and the second.
Yes.
So with respect to the first one, it talks about Anshin providing templates for those forms. I don't know that I've seen them.
I can share it
I
with you.
think
They
you
did.
told me that you
Yeah.
did receive them. So that's the only reason why I would consider delaying adopting that until we look at those forms, but I don't
the
anticipate there
template
be
was-
any problem.
Was a recommendation, so you can have whatever template you want.
Right.
You
We could
do
use
it, that you've been able to demonstrate that local labor wasn't available, and here's the reason why.
I'm
Yeah.
okay with moving these.
Yeah, great. I'd rather not hold that up for that.
Last
but
one?
We can do that. I would adopt this as well, just tweaking our methodology on calculating labor compliance.
All right, let's just go through these one more time now that have we hit them all?
No, we didn't.
No, still going.
That's why I wanted to get.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay, so, this next one is about, veterans employment, processes, policy and such. The only thing we wanted to clarify here was that the onus is on the projects to do this work, not on the IDA. This is incumbent upon the projects to.
Correct,
to do
your
so.
applicant,
Yes.
actually, the project.
But otherwise, we can adopt this.
Okay, so what if they're non-compliant? Who gets in trouble? Us or them?
The project would for being non-compliant, and they don't have a good faith effort where they tried to comply. So then if that ultimately happened, like you have in other times where you find people, you'd have to make a recommendation to the board, so I guess it would come from Bill to the board, that project X is non-compliant, and they refuse to, and the last time you had one on the labor one, I think you fined somebody $2,500 for
Correct.
the fence.
So it went through the audit committee, which is what I think we should do.
Yep.
Audit committee should do it and then recommend to the board.
Okay, so
Whatever.
we're good with this?
Yes, absolutely.
Next.
And just,
Oops, sorry.
and for the sake of removing any gray area, can we just make sure that somewhere in there it says the burden's on the project and not on the IDA? If that's the case, it should be in there. So that way there's no gray area or open for any interpretation or misrepresentation or whatever.
So this is gonna get reduced down to a policy, so this will be an audit policy?
I think we would update our labor policy to include these specifics.
So where is that gonna fall under, which committee?
Audit committee.
Thank you.
I would also state that we should amend the lease agreement where we already tell them to post new jobs on a New York State and a federal website, that they also have to post on these veteran websites as well.
Okay.
There's no requirement to hire, but they have to
I like it.
utilize these.
Yep.
Okay, so,
Rudy, when we ran that down now 6 months ago, because I was sitting here, didn't we, when I did the call with DOL, didn't DOL say that they'll, if you give them, they will actually put them on the federal site and the veterans? I'm trying to remember, you and I were talking about it when I was on the call with them, but we're going back 6 months.
Yeah, I don't remember that call.
No, we were sitting here, when I called them, yep, but okay.
I have a vague remembrance.
I
So
think
again-
DOL will do it for you if you tell one they supply.
Yeah, the question still remains for me. So we're gonna adopt these, but the policy doesn't happen
You're adopting
tonight.
the recommendation, not
And the
yet.
policy will follow. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, next, discussion and development of a tentative schedule for labor monitoring. Brian, could you just explain this a little bit more, exactly what you're looking to accomplish with this, the
So-
timeline?
You had two separate labor compliance firms. One was doing a very good job and was doing it. And then we had uncovered on the other one where they weren't doing what they were supposed to. So you had made some changes and ultimately, I think then only used the other firm on the next one that came up. But the challenge was when we reviewed the labor compliance, it was obvious that one of the firms was doing it totally different and was not, there was no way they could be thorough enough as to what they were doing. And you had two separate firms, one was doing it. So at that, when that issue came up, you had changed that the procedure of the second firm that was doing it would be what you'd implement and make both sides, because you wanted to have two. For competitive reasons, you had two, and you were kind of imposing on the other firm that they had to use the policies and procedures of the firm that had the documentation that covered what you needed.
Okay. Got no problem with that.
Okay. I'm seeing our council's, is okay and happy to put in update the policy with the flood insurance.
Yes.
Okay, so we can accept that recommendation. Okay, Bill.
Okay, last page here. This is about Glen Arden. This one we've all been in the loop on. I make sure Brian is copied on every communication with them. We've been told by both the legal counsel for the purchaser, there's a sale pending, and we've been told that a sale would close, they're targeting October 1st. So really, I think what we'd be looking for in this case, because we don't disagree that if they've been terribly in default, the taxing jurisdictions that are affected have not been made whole, they've been missing payments. The terms of the sale, however, would require that all the affected taxing jurisdictions are made whole. So I think what we're looking for is really from some consideration from Brian, if we don't wanna mess up that sale, but we don't want this to continue forever. We are getting assurances outside of the council as well from folks at Glen Arden that October 1st is the real target date. So I really would just look if we could get a little more leeway to give them space to close by October 1st, and perhaps if we don't, we bring it back again and we consider it in front of this committee and with you, what action we take. We don't wanna jeopardize that sale.
And I get that and all the complications, having been on those calls with you and their commitments to make the taxing jurisdictions whole. So just to be clear, so what you wanna do is let's go out past October 1st.
Yes.
Because we have an October 1st tentative closing date, and I know it's
Yes.
changed a whole bunch of times. Why don't we say we'll look at it at the October meeting, which is probably the middle, second or third week of October?
Absolutely.
I also just want to point out that this recommendation is from April 2025, and it recommends considering revoking the benefits. The benefits have already lapsed since then. There are no benefits that can be revoked. The only thing that could possibly be done is recapture, and I don't believe it's set forth in any of their closing documents, a recapture procedure, although it's in your policy moving forward and in our closing documents moving forward. But hopefully we won't have to get to that, and the sale will occur, and that will make all the taxing jurisdictions whole.
That's the absolute goal, is to make sure that everyone gets paid. Because I
Absolutely.
don't think there's any monies due to us, but we wanna make sure the municipalities are taken care of.
Correct, yes.
Okay, so we're not actually, what we're just gonna say is we're gonna revisit this after the closing date, which we believe is gonna be October 1st. And report
So if you
back.
want a date, we can just put down whatever our October meeting
Sure.
date is, that we'll address it then. Hopefully the closing had taken place, if not, we'll have some, I know it's been more than, close to a year that this,
Oh, it's been,
date
it's
that
been a
they've
long
been
time.
kicking the
This
can.
has been going on forever, but if you
on being
know,
able to close it.
well, gotta find the buyer that's willing to take on the responsibility, which has been the very difficult part of all of this. Okay, next.
Okay, make sure all projects complete, submit complete and timely documentation for pilot payments. We do feel like we're doing this, that we compare pilot invoices with, is it canceled checks, Marty, right?
Yes.
So we do feel like we're complying with it. Do you think we're missing that, Brian? Is there some nuance there?
I don't think so, going back, I mean, so we have. So Mari, why don't you send me what we have, and we can put this on that category for September, meeting. Cause if you're already doing it, I'd like to say it's implemented.
So we don't take an action on this, Tom.
I still think we
Unless-
should accept it, adopt it,
Okay?
because we haven't formally done that. I don't see any reason, even if we're doing it, we can adopt it.
Okay.
Brian,
Okay, yep.
you said send you what I have as far as?
So, I think Bill just said you're gonna accept it. The issue is, do you have a policy to be able to check that? I know Bill was saying you look at it and you have the
So when-
canceled check.
so
If we
when-
have a policy, if not, maybe we write, there's a paragraph written around doing it. But you're gonna accept the recommendation that it's gonna be looked at, and it's gonna be looked at in a timely manner. If you don't have a policy, I'd suggest you put together a paragraph policy
Got it.
on what you're actually doing when that comes in.
Yeah, I don't think we have anything written like that, so, okay, I think we should adopt this, but.
So does the taxing jurisdiction provide you with their invoice and the check that was used to pay for it?
Or the
Because I don't know
projects
how,
No. So we check it, I check it with the annual reporting. So in our letter, we specifically ask for the invoices and the canceled checks. And it's required that we get both so that we can compare what they owe and what they paid.
And so the idea would here is, so on the Glen Arden one, if there was another scenario that was out like that, you would know about it, that there was a taxing jurisdiction that was not paid. Since you're getting it in the annual, so it's just a matter of tracking it. If you don't get it in the annual, Marty follows up and they address it, then you check the box. But if someone didn't do it, it's now, you know that it hasn't been done.
so we're monitoring the taxing jurisdictions to make sure that they're getting paid. We're a second set of eyes.
And in
reviewing
there,
the
it's
taxing
it's coming from the project in their annual report, they're sending it over to Marty, that information. And the whole idea is there just to raise everybody's sensitivity who's sitting here, if you had a project who didn't make payments. They come in, they promised, and now you wouldn't know about it until they were far enough back that it created a in rem, foreclosure type issue.
Well, in a perfect world, the taxing jurisdiction would notify us immediately when the pilot wasn't paid, but we can monitor it as well.
Because you're
as the
asking
tax-
for it in your annual, and so it's the idea of how do you memorialize that, and it could be just in the policy that Marty notifies or Bill notifies that if there's a project that hasn't done it. So we don't, there's not one that's out there that didn't meet their obligations.
Right, I'm just saying the taxing jurisdiction is the one that's supposed to get paid, so if they haven't, they should come back to us to advise us that they haven't been paid, so that we can exert whatever influence or pressure we can on the project, but.
That would work equally, instead of Marty asking the project for it, the jurisdiction then would say, hey, we didn't get paid.
But I
And
understand.
do they actually do that, Marty or Bill, now, if there's not a pilot payment made?
We don't hear from the taxing jurors? I do, at times. I do get notices from the Goshen schools on Glen Arden and some others, and we had a concern about Royal Wine that was resolved. But I do hear from them, but
I
feel like
agree, it's
this
a
is
good policy to have a fail-safe in case the taxing jurisdiction doesn't notify us, that we can check it on the annual reports and then confirm it with the taxing jurisdiction and then take whatever steps are appropriate.
So we can
at
just
that
develop a policy to make sure that we have that step that's outlined. I'm okay with that. Okay, next.
Okay, conflict of interest policy should include language consistent with GML, allowing an individual with a conflict to provide factual background information or respond to questions before the start of deliberations or voting, if requested by the board. And we had just said that, we think the board should be permitted to request that the person with the conflict of interest present information or answer questions from the board prior to deliberations or voting. That basically restating that we have the right to request that.
So we're gonna accept that recommendation. Next.
And these next two are really about notifying companies, projects reminding them of their employment commitments and other commitments. That when their grace period, which is say 3 years after construction is completed, they have 3 years to get up to the proper employment levels, letting them know that they're within their grace period or if it's ending. And the second one here is when the 3-year period, reminding them when the grace period begins of what their commitments are. I think.
And to that, the new statute says you now have the clawback authority on it if they don't ultimately do it. So the letter from us to all the current projects are basically giving them a copy of the new statute and what their commitments were at application.
You and I, Bill, spoke a little bit about this because business doesn't always revolve around how they are going to do it 3 years post-start of an application.
Right.
So we talked about adding remote workers. I know in my world, remote workers.
To our application.
Yeah, so that we can actually qualify who's working and who's not working. Right now, we don't have a way to qualify whether you have, that they're not considered employees if they're remote working. And I think that's a fallacy. I can't tell you how many physicians were working from home and doing telemedicine. So I just think that would probably be a good idea to do that. Do you have a problem with that, Brian?
No. So to that, the policy would allow capturing of a remote employee.
Correct.
Which I think is, in the current environment.
Yeah, it would be a category of
Yes.
employee,
Yep.
part-time, full-time, and remote.
Yeah, they're an employee whether they're remote
Or
or
not.
physically at the location.
Yes.
Correct, yep.
So I
And,
recommend adopting these. Go ahead, Marty.
and Brian, you'll help us incorporate that into our annual letter?
Yeah, so we have a letter right now, that we've been back and forth with on the number side of it, on the clawback piece, because Bill and I were talking about, I would assume the 30 projects, very few of them are aware of a state statute that changed in July that gives the authority to claw back. So the idea was first to give them a copy of the statute, let them know what their commitment was at application and where they are, not making any determinations that clawback is or isn't gonna happen, but the letter, which is coming from me, just says, hey, the statute changed, here's a copy of the statute, here's your cut and pasted out of the application, what your commitment was, and by the way, here's where you are. And it's an FYI letter, it's not saying that a clawback is or is not gonna happen, but it's putting everybody on notice as to what the new statute is. Because ultimately, if a determination is made, like say in January when those reports come in, if someone's failed miserably and there's gonna be a recommendation for a clawback, I think we have an obligation, and I said to Bill, it's bad news, I said, you don't need to send the letter out, I'll send it to the 30, saying here's the new statute, here's what it is, and here's what you committed to do, and it is cut and pasted out of their application. Those are the numbers we were going back and forth with you over the last 2 weeks on.
Yeah, there are a few examples, pardon me, Marty, where the job commitments that are made in the application don't necessarily equal the closing documents. So really the closing are the legal documents where the commitments are codified. So in some cases, we've notified Mansion Health that the closing documents actually show this amount.
That's it.
So that we're on the same page with that.
But Brian, specifically to what Linda mentioned about the remote employees, we don't have a category for that on our annual letter. Will you help us incorporate that?
Yeah, so I think we'll
Okay.
work, and we can work with Rudy as to language that your
Okay.
policy that you accept, you know, so, cause someone could be remote or hybrid.
So
Yep.
we have to get the policy for us to approve it, but we are going to recommend acceptance.
Accepting the recommendation, and you'll ultimately do a policy to implement it.
All right, so let's go through this one more time and make sure that
Okay.
we're on the.
Do we need to go through it again?
I'm just going quick.
Well, she
Yeah,
has- she
we're
has to be-
about out of time.
I-
We are, but she has to be clear
I
of
have
what
to
she
be
tells the
clear what
board,
I'm gonna
so.
report to the board. So, we're accepting the recommendation of the first one. You've given us additional time beyond the 45 on the second one. We accept the recommendation on the third, we accept the recommendation on the fourth and the fifth, which is all on the first page. The next three on the second page, we accept the recommendation. On the next page, we accept the recommendation, there'll be a policy to follow from the audit committee. We accept the recommendation on the next, we accept the recommendation on the next. We're going to relook at this specifically because it's gotta do with, Glen Arden after October 1st, and report at the October meeting. Accept the recommendation, and we'll follow up with the policy on the second one on that page. Third one, accept the recommendation. Fourth one, accept the recommendation. Fifth one, accept the recommendation with the follow-up policy. I think that's all already. Anything else we have to do?
Well, I think we're good. Well, we have a couple more items here. We'll try and move quickly here. If I can move on to fee schedule amendment.
You go right ahead, sir.
So, as you know, with the new monitor statute, there's also prevailing wage requirement on pilots. That's gonna limit our request for pilots, or the pilots that we approve. We had, when we last revised our fee schedule, I kind of took the inspiration from our former chairman, Michael Torelli, about trying to make it a little easier on smaller projects that don't request a pilot but only use sales tax exemption. In those cases, they were going for 485B all the time. And we made the sales tax fees lower so that we could just make it a little bit more affordable for them. Well, now, sales tax exemption is our primary product. So I'm asking that we can revert back to our prior fee schedule for this, where it's now 10% of the sales tax benefit. It's just a lot more, and I did work it out for one example project. This is a real project, though I won't say the name. With the current schedule, the fee would be $37,000, and with the proposed schedule, it would be $90,000. So, and much more commensurate with what the benefit, in that case, $906,000 in benefit. So, it's what our fee schedule showed for a long time, and we lowered it, and it's just no longer really viable for us to have such a low fee for such an important product. So, I'm looking to revert back to the 10% of the sales tax benefit amount as shown in the red line, in this case, blue line.
Blue line.
Are we voting on this, or just, this is just a recommendation?
Recommend to the board, and looking for the board to
This has to
approve
come out of
this.
committee, so.
Yeah,
we
that's
can
fine.
Yep.
move forward. Is that the only thing that we're moving
No,
for this?
for this,
For
yes.
this, all right. So I'd ask for a recommendation that this come out of committee, and we recommend to the board that they approve the 10% of the sales tax exemption benefit.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Great, so we'll make that recommendation.
Yep.
Next is UTEP amendment. Now this is in your packet on page 6, that's the small number on the bottom right hand corner. This is just an excerpt from our UTEP. This is page 4 from our UTEP. What's highlighted at the top is a new phrase that we're adding, which basically states that we will not give pilots for warehouses going forward once this has been adopted by the board. This was one of several policy enhancements that we went through over the summer, or the spring, I should say. I went back and forth with all of you. This is something we discussed with Senator Skoufis about, a number of policies, and this is the right time for this one.
So
If you're looking to approve,
we're gonna ask that this committee recommend that the highlighted portion on page 6 be adopted by the board.
yes.
Okay, I need a motion to recommend that to the board.
I made the motion.
I need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
And then the last item, our annual assessments. This is something that came out of the ancient recommendations, really better ways for us to annually assess projects, and where they stand with various things. So we developed this form, and we conducted them, filled them out for every one of our active projects. Again, this starts on page 7 of your packet, yep. And I just included in your packet the assessments that I think need attention. And I'm gonna go through them relatively quickly in the interest of time. We have 2 minutes till finance is scheduled to start. Blooming Grove Hotel, they show 15 employees where they had projected to add 17. In talking to them, this has come up before in our conversations with them, seasonality is a big issue, so and I brought it up in this committee as well. When they provided an employee headcount to us in May, they had 24 FTEs. So it's a much different story for them in the height of summer versus the
So we
winter
need to
time.
take an average across the year. It can't be a point in time if it's gonna be seasonal, so we need to really kind of think about that.
Yes. Next one is CRH3, that's personal and healthcare. We've been through this one, I just want to continue to highlight it. They're short of their job target. We did terminate their pilot early, but they are still short of their job numbers in Monroe. We did get a report from Crystal Run for all of their Orange County employees, which was a figure. And they have a total of 1,203 jobs in Orange County, a number of which are remote. So they do have a lot of Orange County employees that they did show us in their last report to us in May. We did ask for a report including residency from all of our active projects. So with that one you're aware of, that's CRH 3, CRH 8. This is Newburgh, and the pilot expired. They're 39 jobs short of their target. Again, we have talked about it, they've given us their explanation. It is a major downturn. They have trouble hiring doctors. They've got a number of things that they told us.
Lumley's being sold.
Right, they're sold out. Next is Fiorello Pharmaceuticals. Right now they are below, they did tell us in an update that they have 134 current employees, but they are below their 179. I believe they're still within their grace period, but it's one I wanted to flag for you. This is Green Thumb Industries, the cannabis manufacturer of Warwick. GAM Properties, that is King Zach. And they are below their target. They've lost a number of employees, and they explained that they've really been hurt by the closing of Party Cities, about 1,000 stores that they supplied, also Christmas tree shops and Tuesday morning shops. I don't know that last one, but they've closed. They are looking, and they said tariffs have affected them detrimentally as well, but they're looking to add a new line of products that they think will add another 20 jobs. But they have lost employees, and that's their explanation. That's GAN. Glenarg, and we talked about, we won't spend any more time on it. One of the biggest items that we saw that this report revealed to us was with Mediacom, and looking at past Paris reports. If you see on page 2, right in the middle, section number 3, sales tax exemption, they were incentivized for $726,000 in sales tax exemption, and according to their reporting, they used close to $4 million. Now I did some calculations there. The $726,000, that would equate to just shy of $9 million of sales tax eligible expenses. Whereas if they received $4 million in sales tax exemption, that would be equivalent to $48.7 million of sales tax eligible expenses, which was the entire construction budget. So there's plenty that it doesn't apply for. But Rudy and I have been talking with them. What they think they did was, and they're still researching, they're trying to find, a lot of this is very old now. You see this has been going on, this was back in 2011, 2012. They think that they misreported and that they they told us, and ultimately to Paris, we forwarded on into the Paris report, that they use sales tax exemption for items that were not eligible, whether it's legal costs, other non-SDE eligible, but it's a huge number, and I think it's something that we wanna look into and maybe bring Anshin into, to make sure we're getting to the bottom of it. But this was something we discovered because of this new report. So, far in excess of what their sales tax exemption was incentivized for. And that's that one, and I think that's something we'll revisit.
So, just a question, what do we do with this?
If they have exceeded the sales tax exemption that they were authorized for, New York State taxation would be notified, and they would have to pay the taxes on the amount that they.
Who makes that
purchased.
report, us or them?
It would be great if they self-reported, but if they don't, it is our obligation to do so.
So,
Yeah.
do we have a timeline for this to happen for them? I mean,
This is the first time reporting it to you, and it's something that I wanted to look at in notifying Anshin, and something that we continue to look into. We've given them a little more time to try and find their documentation.
How long
They
have
think
you
some of it, well, we spoke with them again last week, I wanna say, and they are trying to find in a warehouse, trying to find some of this older documentation, more than 7 years old. They dump a lot of stuff. They're worried that they don't have some of it, but they are searching right now.
And the way you just described that legal fees don't have sales tax on them. It
Exactly.
may be a record keeping that they're saying we took a deduction that we weren't entitled to, but Rudy's bills don't have sales tax.
Yeah,
No, and that's what their point is, that
They
they
may-
claimed it, but they probably, they didn't, it
Because they
wasn't
never paid,
eligible.
because the service was not subject to sales tax.
right,
Right, they reported everything that
They did.
was exempt from sales tax,
As,
like their architect fees or engineer fees or attorney's fees,
Right.
and they lumped it all together.
so, they made some mistakes in reporting. I guess my point is, Brian, you sit here and we found an error, we need to close an error. How long of a time is reasonable to close what we have now uncovered?
so why don't we say 45 days, let's throw out a time out there, and then if they need additional time, we can work with that. Because I think what we're gonna find is it was bad record keeping on their part, that the items that they put in that category were
Or
not
it just
subject
shouldn't have
to.
been in the category to begin
Exactly,
with.
they're not
So,
subject to sales tax.
You okay with that, Bill? 45 days, we'll revisit?
Yep.
The problem with this is these expenses were all from 2012 through 2014. So their records, they advised us they
Maybe on record.
destroyed a
But
lot
that
of the
may,
records.
the answer may be for us, as we're continuing to do our own investigation, is that they surpassed the 7 years of retainment, and they're not available, and so we'll have to, it's part of how we'll report this out, I'm gonna assume.
Yes.
Next one is Merlin Entertainments, otherwise known as Legoland New York. A couple of things here. First of all, they reported 584 here at the end of 2025, but they just gave us an updated number of 1,049 full-time equivalents right now, the height of
Summer.
their season, as you can imagine.
Sure.
We also found that in their leaseback agreement, the job commitment that was codified was 700. That's something that I wanna make sure that the council is okay with, and Anshin as well. But they are still within their grace period, because technically their construction period is still going on until the end of this year. But I wanted to just raise that. And the last one is Tuxedo Place. These are actual bonds that were issued through the IDA, not through OCFC. And they are in default of their bonds, though they're paying interest payments. I don't have bond counsel here tonight, but really what his explanation was is if they're in default, that's really up to the underwriter of the bonds, the issuer of the bonds, to have a problem with. They are related to the entity that issued the bonds, apparently. It's a little confusing, but that's something maybe I bring bond counsel back on
Probably.
to explain that one.
So we're not taking any actions on any of these that you reported?
No, but I'd like to revisit a
I was
couple.
gonna say, are you gonna go through this?
Yes,
with the
mostly
board?
I think I'd like to discuss with Anshin, because it's the first we've gone over with them, and with council, and then I'll bring it to the board.
So we're not gonna report any of these to the board?
Not to the board this evening.
Thank you. All right, is there anything else that we need to do?
That's everything.
That's a lot.
It was a lot. Thank you for your time.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Whew.